and that we see you well. All right, perfect. Apparently, yeah, yeah. There's some people connecting online as well from France and other places. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. Very, very excited about tonight because that's the first time we do a physical event in like 2 years. Like, that's for real. More than 5 people. Yeah, that's what I call an event. Cool. Few rules, obviously. When you're seated, you're completely allowed not to have your mask, so that's fine. If you're standing, please make sure that you have your mask on or you have something to drink close by. And those are the rules, so please abide by them. And she'll close the door, but still respect the rules, please. And big thanks before we get even started as well for our host tonight, OVH. Some of you even asked me if that was a co-working space. No, it's not. It's a proper office. It's the headquarters of OVH, but as you can see, work-life balance is good. We were here at 4 o'clock and there was no one already. So probably
I want to apply for a job.
Yeah.
OVH.
Probably meeting with clients and working really hard. What else? And thank you as well to Lincoln and Flick, who are also partners of Singapore Bonanza. Some of you didn't know what Singapore Bonanza was tonight, so maybe that's a good time to do a bit of an introduction. Singapore Bonanza is a French tech project. And also produced by Co-Creation Lab, which is my company. So I'm a bit suspicious to say that I like it. But there was a long time ago, there was an idea of inspired by a video some of you might have seen called How to Start a Startup by Y Combinator, with no pretension whatsoever to do as well as those guys, but at least to be inspired by them. We decided to do something that would kind of answer the question to how to grow, how to scale a startup in Asia. And who better to do that than to get entrepreneurs who have walked that walk, people who are leading scale-ups in Asia, who are leading their companies here, have seen the challenge, have tackled a few of them, gotten a few punches in the face, and so who can share their experience with young entrepreneurs and less young at least. And also the partners, we chose them because they all have something to do with entrepreneurs. So OVHcloud is obviously providing a cloud infrastructure for entrepreneurs. Steven is part of Lincoln, which is one of the best hiring company and a talent advisory company, which is much more than staffing in Asia. It's a French group. And Slick, who's not a French company, it's a Singaporean company, but also founded by French people. Daniel is also French. For so many people he's worked with who are French, but also head of sales and customer support, and has probably spoken to more entrepreneurs than I did in the last few years, right? And so that's going to be our guest for tonight. So maybe we can do a little round of intro, because I've just given your names, but didn't do you any honor in presenting you. So maybe we can start with Elen and introduce you.
Nice to meet you. So my name is Elen Martin. I'm working for OVH for 4 years plus. I was located in France. I have the first part of my professional life was in finance, and then I moved to operation within OVH. And now I'm in charge of the expansion, international expansion for OVH in Asia Pacific.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to be one of the panel speakers. Very honored, and it's good to be seeing everybody in a event, in a real life event. One thing I did research on OVH is that I found out that OVH is the hosting partner for WikiLeaks. Yes, which you took over from Amazon, I think, or one of the cloud, yeah, the biggest, and that is a big win because, you know, go WikiLeaks. Okay, just a quick introduction. I'm Steve. I'm the country director for Lincoln Group, which is a Paris headquartered executive search and leadership advisory business. We've been in Asia for over 5 years. We've got about 200 people across the world. And I'm here to talk about talent and you know, questions on that. More than happy to answer. During the introduction that Julian sent to everybody, it says I've got 28 years experience in the recruitment industry. I wish he wasn't so precise. and because it might give you a hint of how old I am, but I did start recruitment when I was 10. So
Thanks, Steve. So my name's Daniel. Is this working? Yeah. Yeah. So I'm the head of customer success and sales at Sleek. And so I moved to Singapore 4 years ago. And Sleek, I think we had 20 people in the company, and now we're 250 people within like 3.5 years, which is amazing. We have offices in Singapore, Hong Kong, the UK, and in Australia. So it's been pretty exciting to be part of a very fast scale-up and startup. And every month now, in terms of the sales team, we onboard around 400 new startups every month. So new incorporations, new companies. So a lot of my day and the team that I work with is just talking to entrepreneurs and hearing their problems, their challenges, their pain points. They don't want to pay. They have really difficult ideas, good ideas, some bad ideas. So it's really, it's been an exciting role because you get to meet a lot of really interesting people, a lot of really dodgy people. So I think it'd be good to share some of the examples tonight that we have seen in terms of these discussions that we've had with entrepreneurs. And then at the end of this year, I'll be relocating back to Australia to help spearhead our office there in Sydney, where we've just had 3 people hired. And at the end of this year, we want to have 30 people. So again, the growth and expansion continues. And in Singapore today, we have 6,000 clients after 3 years. But the company we acquired in the UK has done 450,000 incorporations in the last 20 years. So now we can say we have 456,000 clients. But yeah, just to echo, it's great to be in an in-person event again after so long. I think I've been asked for a business card 4 times already, and I realized I don't even know where they are anymore.
Thanks, Daniel, for covering while I was trying to reconnect my computer. The joy of live. It's going to be a long event if I have to do that every 5 minutes. Yeah, I have the same problem as you. I completely forgot about business cards, but we're all digital, right? So if you want to find those people, they're probably on LinkedIn anyway, so save some paper. Enjoying the fact that the background is actually working right now. You have a QR code there as well. That's a link to the playlist of Singapore Bonanza. There's already 5 videos online. One is featuring Elen right there. The other 2 are featuring people from Lincoln and Sleek, not those guys. We got the smart one for tonight. But you'll see those are videos talking, especially each of them is focused on one topic. So it's not about the life journey of one entrepreneur. It's really about one topic. So you'll discover that in the video. And I'll take the opportunity as well to give a shout out to Bastien, who's in the room, who's one of the producers of this series. So if you need good video people and people to create good videos, Bastien is here. Has done some work with Sleek as well, so it's very incestual, this thing. Right? Cool. So begin with big round of applause for our speaker before they say anything wrong. Come on. Cool. So Daniel, we'll start with you maybe if you agree. So you've been at Sleek for 4 years since you were in Singapore, and so from business development to sales and customer success in a company that helps entrepreneurs to incorporate their company. So basically, you're as close as what it gets to be an entrepreneur therapist, I guess. You understand all their concern, their challenge, their fears, and all that. What would you say are the top concern of the entrepreneurs when they start their company? And maybe I'll ask you a trickier question after that.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think every entrepreneur has a different business idea, different dream, different goal, but I think the pain points are quite similar in terms of the conversations we have. I think entrepreneurs at the very beginning of their journey are always worried about cost because, again, you are investing your own money into your own business. And so things such as setting up a business like CorpSec, incorporation, accounting, is super unsexy, super boring. No one wants to actually do it. No one wants to pay for it. So that's the stuff that we provide at Sleek. And so we've tried to make it very affordable, very transparent, and fully digital. Because I think the second thing that entrepreneurs in this day and age really care about is speed. If you have a great idea, if you just keep sitting on it, it takes you like 4 months to set up a company, by then it's almost too late. You've lost the opportunity that you had at the time that you actually wanted to launch the business. And I think another challenge is some people they doubt themselves in terms of their ability to deliver on a project. And again, I see a lot of people have a lot of like really good confidence in themselves, but they have a really bad idea. But I think to their credit, they actually just do it. And I think that's also part of the challenge of being an entrepreneur, is just having the guts to try something different. And I think working in Sleek from the very beginning up until now, we've made a lot of decisions as a startup or as a growth company, which were quite risky, but in the end, they paid off big time. So I think also it's finding the right people to be in your team, particularly at that early stage, because you as a founder you may have the right technical skills, or you might have the right hustle skills, but you might not have both. So I think it's really important to identify the right talent as well. And I think that's a big challenge for people, particularly in Singapore, like you said, where it's very incestuous. Everyone knows each other and everyone's looking for that co-founder or that partner in crime to take that risk with them. So I think they were the top three. So speed, cost, and the team.
And to bounce on that, is there anything that they're not actually seeing that will slap them in the face faster than they'd like?
I think in terms of what the scope that we look at is compliance. So when you set up a company, you actually have to do stuff. You have to remember about your filing deadlines. You need to remember you have to pay tax or even declare your tax. So I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they start and then they just go running full speed and they don't actually stop to remember what they have to do along the way. So I think there's a lot of our clients who register the business and we talk to them about the tax and accounting and say, no, I don't need that yet. And then it gets the day of their deadline, they contact us, which is actually 16 months later, saying, oh, I need that now. And we're like, well, it's too late. So tomorrow you have a $300 penalty, and then 1 month later you have another $900 penalty. So I think as well, it's not knowing everything they're getting themselves into at the beginning, but that's part of the fun, I think. You discover that along the way. You pay the penalty the first year, and then the next year you remember to do it on time, or you sign up for someone like Sleek that can help you take care of that.
You don't work with a carrot, you'll work with a stick, right? And maybe moving to Elen. So Elen, you're the APAC program manager for OVH, which is another word for you launched the Singapore office, and you did that by from being in France to coming here, and we see that in the video, and hopefully you did it well because we're all here.
Thank you.
In your house tonight. Does what Daniel resonates with your experience? I know OVH is not a startup anymore, but you started an office from scratch. There was the data center, but like no one here and all that. Where was the roadblocks that you saw when you arrived there? What was the kind of like the problem you had to solve specifically?
Actually, yes, we are not a startup anymore, but in our DNA, we're still working like a startup. So we continue to do a lot of things by ourselves. This is how we work in OVH. So when you need to set up a new office, for sure, you keep the same idea, do everything on ourselves. So for sure, we had some few bad experiences, but each time you learn. And actually, the most important thing for us was to keep always this DNA. So in each choice, in the office, in the recruitments, each time we were thinking, okay, is it aligned with what we want for OVH? Because we don't want to open here just a Singaporean company. We want to open an OVH subsidiary with the mindset of the company, and to find people that we would like to be friends with, you know, and to open an office where we want to be, we want to spend some time. So I'm sorry, there were not a lot of people this afternoon, you're right. But it's always a pleasure to be here, and this is really important for us. But for sure, we made some mistakes, and sometimes you need to accept to lose some time. So for sure, we want to go very fast, but we have to adapt and to adjust if we do everything on ourselves.
Well, that was cool. There was not that many people this afternoon because we tested the sound, we crashed the calls and all that. So that was actually a good thing. I think they flew away. Stephen, you joined LegalCall about a year ago. Same saying, it's not really a startup, but it's still a pretty small company here. Were there anything that you looked at right away as the leader of the Singapore office to see if things were in order, and that like if you needed to fix anything in the plumbery when you arrive, like stuff that you're like, oh, if this is not working, this is going to be a red flag.
Right. I from Lincoln's point of view, you know, it was very situational, right? So we were in the middle of COVID. People were working from home because of government guidelines and things like that. So how do you get an office people connected, engaged, and in the business that we're in, which is essentially a sales force, sales business, how do you get people motivated working from home? Because there is a lot of human dynamics. If we were all in the office, all making sales calls, all making head-on calls, and you know that energy sort of feeds off everybody. But if everybody's working from home, how do you replicate that? So for me, it was very important to make sure that the engagement part was critical. So the use of social media, WhatsApp groups, using any opportunities to have a get together on video, on camera, yeah. So that was a very important part when I first joined LinkedIn, to make sure that we got everybody together. But now the situation's changed. Now 75% are allowed back in the office. It's not so critical anymore. But yeah, at that time when I first got into LinkedIn, that was the number one challenge.
So making sure that your people are set for success, basically, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and everyone's still got the mindset that, you know, we got numbers to achieve, we got targets to meet, and not just because I'm working from home, I can wake up at 10 o'clock, you know, go for a run at 12, and you know, have a beer at 4, kind of thing, right? Yeah.
You described my last 2 years. And so you've been in the recruiting industry for since you were 10.
Yes. Yeah.
So
it's been a tough life. Yeah.
What would you advise to young entrepreneurs starting their business to look for the first talent to join in after you got the co-founders? Yeah.
So you know, for startups, it's like, it's different from if you are like a big multinational, like a Procter & Gamble or Unilever or Google or Facebook. For a startup, I mean, you know, it's critical that you have the right people on board. That means you have to make sure that you have people that have the right values, that have the right cultural fit. Obviously, the skill part as well. You know, but there's a saying to say that, you know, the skill part is trainable, but the cultural fit and the values, that's not trainable. It's either they have it or they don't. So it's even more critical if you've got a team of 3 people, 5 people. If somebody's a little bit out of whack, you know, it changes the dynamics and the flow of the office. Yeah.
And for you, Ellen, who were the first people joining in, and how did you ensure they had that cultural fit?
Yes, I agree with you. The culture fit is really key, especially at the launch when you have only 2, 3, 4 people. So at the beginning, we had some sales people and communication manager. Jalik was here, and so, yes, so that was the first positions we opened here in Singapore, sales and communication position, and also supply, because we had some challenges about the supply chain. And yes, the culture fit was really, really important for us, especially because in a startup, even if we are a bigger company, but we are still working like in a startup, you need to have a specific culture with a lot of autonomy in the teams, be able to create the contact, the network between the teams within the office for sure, but also in France and in other countries, in Canada. So everybody has to feel comfortable to get in touch with all different cultures, and yes, move forward always, and not waiting to have some clear information from one boss to the teams.
And so you both talked about salespeople. We have the sales guy here, and talking about my own experience. I think the first time I actually did a project in order was when I founded my own company, and I realized that having clients was more important than anything else. I can remember the shitty logo was like something drawn on a whiteboard. Like, I'm still ashamed of it. But so getting clients through the door is what makes you survive until tomorrow and the day after, right? And so, what would make a good salesperson for the beginning of the journey? And is it different, like from like at the beginning of the journey, or is it different like when you work in a multinational? What would make a good salesperson when you start up?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, because again, we're at a pivotal point in Sleek. So we raised $25 million in December, which means we have money now to get really good people. But before then, it was really, the teams were like you said, we were hiring more on cultural fit rather than skill. Because if you hire someone that has the right culture, the right vision, the right motivation, they'll stick with you and they'll learn the skill, they'll work hard. But I think you get to a stage where you're at a scale where you need to have people that have had experience within that industry. But as a startup, you can't afford those people yet. So the original sales team, because at one point I was the only salesperson in the whole of Sleek. So I was like paying everyone's salaries and getting all the income. But The people that I found were people within the industry, but they didn't necessarily have sales experience, but they connected on kind of the human level, which is what you need salespeople to be. Because salespeople, people will buy off you if they like you. It's as simple as that. People do business with people. People don't like the hustler, the person that is like just trying to sell you the kitchen sink. They want to know that you connect with them, that you listen to them, and then you actually hear their needs and you sell to them based off what they need. So the first few salespeople that we found in Sleek were working for the Israeli trade office. Next door to Sleek, there was the SME Center, which gives free advice to startups looking to start up in Singapore. So I found them and said, hey, do you want to come and I'll give you commission? And so they had never had sales experience, but they were in the industry, they knew the lingo, and they had the right cultural fit. Now that we're at a stage where we have money, I can go out and find people that have like 5 years sales experience that are hustlers, and it doesn't matter what they're selling. They know the pipelines, they know the targets, they know the techniques, and they'll just learn the products and they'll learn the industry quite quickly. But at the beginning, I think it's like you both said, you need to hire based on cultural fit rather than the technical skill, because the person might have the skill, but they might not have the passion or the same cultural fit with the company. And so in the end, they'll just leave and you'll end up paying them a whole lot of money for not a lot of sales.
So when's the tipping point? Is it when you raise money, or is there anything else that makes you think like, all right, this is a good time to switch?
Yeah, I think it depends on what you're selling. I think for Sleek, what we sell is quite simple. It's not rocket science. People reach out to us when they need a company or when they need accounting. I don't know anyone that would go on Google late at night and look for an accountant if you actually need accounting. So really, in our type of role, we just need someone that's one, available, two, that can listen to what the person needs and advise them and say, okay, to set up a company, you need to register, you need a corpsec, you need a local director, you need an address, and you need accounting. You can take it all from us, or you can take none of it from us, but we're here. This is the cost. Do you want to sign up? So I guess that's a people conversation. You need someone to have that conversation. If you were selling something a bit more technical, maybe you do need someone with a bit more experience, a bit more industry knowledge, but it depends really on the product and also the demand and the scale and the complexity of the conversations you need to have. So for me, at the very beginning, the sales team that we had was perfect, and those people are still in the same sales role, and they've just grown in their expertise, their own sales experience, and now they've got 2 to 3 years sales experience. And so I need to keep increasing their salaries to keep them, because there's other sales companies that are looking for people with the right cultural fit and the sales experience.
And they're starting to have money. Stephen, maybe to bounce with you, people starting their own company will probably not be able to afford a talent advisory firm.
We're not that expensive.
No, at least not for the first couple of people. Do you have any other advice to attract the right people based on what Daniel said, or any addition? What would be your top tips from the recruiting industry?
Right. So, somebody like myself have been in this game for a long time. Again, I don't want to repeat how many years, but you sort of develop a gut feel of people that you meet, and that comes with experience. But there are also tools that you can use to kind of assess one level deeper, because when the first round is always meeting somebody, right? So that's an interview, and you sort of get an experience of that person. And okay, that's who I think this person is, and value, cultural fit, that kind of thing. But it's also good to have a second assessment of the person using personality tools. And some of these tools are free. I mean, you don't have to pay money. You can just use Google, and the tests that people can do, they'll give an insight to their personality and their behavior and things like that. So, I mean, we have a proprietary tool, which we incorporate as part of the recruitment process. And what it does, it just gives us one level deeper assessment of somebody's drive, somebody's need for support, somebody's emotional stability and things like that. So, and there is no perfect hire. There is no perfect employee. Basically, when I want to hire somebody, like before we hired Mikhail, he had to do the test. Then you sort of assess. Okay, Mikhail's needy. Do I have time to manage his neediness? If I have time to manage his neediness, but his drive is really high. So okay, I like the part that he's got very high drive and he'll be great in this role, but he's needy, right? So do I have time to manage that? So no, he's not needy, but give an example, maybe to his wife.
He's a little bit.
Yeah. But yeah, that's just an example that there are tools out there that you can use that will give you a deeper insight before you hire. But also, you know, there are a lot of things that you can do as well. I mean, everybody wants to present their best self at an interview, at a job interview. Who doesn't? Because you want the job. You know, if you're almost at the final stage of hiring and you want to be doubly sure, maybe you want to take somebody out for a meal or a drink and sort of see how they behave in a non professional environment. You know, I've had cases where clients have not made the offer to the candidate because they went drinking and then their true self came out, and it's not what the employer wanted. Yeah.
Interesting. And any tip from your side, Ellen? From
Yes, it reminds me something. We did exactly the same. We wanted to recruit one guy, and the resume was really nice, but we were not sure. And then we decided to take a drink with this guy. and after this drink, we were saying, okay, the skills are really nice, but for sure there is no fit between us, and we decided not to hire him because for us, yes, culture fit is more important than skills. So we had exactly the same experience.
Just to make sure the message here is not to make your candidates drink, but to take them out for a ride, right? Since we're on the topic of talents, talents is a bit of a hot topic at the moment in Singapore, not to say a burning one, especially between visas, local hires, and all that. So first, I think there's no reason not to hire a local. That would be less expensive, much less of a struggle. How do an entrepreneur, with what Daniel was saying, maybe this one's for you, Stephen, but like with entrepreneurs being with less budget and you don't have an attractive company yet, like people don't know you and all that, what would be your advice to actually attract the local hires or the local talents, and maybe also where to find them? Because what I hear a lot in the community is like, I don't even know where to look for them, and second, I don't even know how to attract them to my unknown company with no budget.
Right. So there's, I wouldn't say it's a saying, but I think that there is maybe anecdotal evidence that the first batch of people as a startup, the first batch of people that you hire might not be the ultimate batch of people that stays. You know, so as a startup, you need to do what you can. You hire based on what's available, the best that's available, and then some of them might do well, some of them might not, and they leave, and you find new ones. So you can't wait for the perfect hire as a startup. You can't. Because time is against you, right? So where to find young Singaporeans? It depends on where you want to hire. So if you look at the millennials or the Gen Z, they're not hiding out in Job Street. They're not hiding out on LinkedIn. A lot of them are into the new social media space, right? So there are Telegram groups that are targeted towards graduates or people who are graduating or people who are just coming out of national service. So that's if you're hiring like base junior level staff. But yeah, I mean, those are some of the avenues that you hang out. If you're looking for very technical sort of skills, then maybe you need to be part of communities that focus in on that, like, you know, tech communities or blockchain communities or something like that. That if you want to target those sort of talent pool.
And if you realize that you need or you want or you find the perfect foreign candidate, at the moment it's a bit of a struggle with the EPs, or at least that's the word on the street. I know that you're handling that as well, Daniel. What would be the way to actually go through this as smoothly as possible? How do you secure foreign candidates, and how do you get any people?
Yeah, I think, it was interesting. I attended an event yesterday held by the Ministry of Manpower to talk about the upcoming changes to the EP and the S pass rules. So they're actually going to become a bit more difficult, but again, not meant to be restrictive. Again, the idea behind the changes is to bring up the caliber of the local employment through bringing in employees from overseas only when they're complementary to the actual local employees. And so they'll be bringing in something called Compass in addition to the qualifying salary for EP, where the company and the individual actually needs to satisfy a number of points to then be able to hire the EP candidate. So again, that's making things a little bit more difficult to come to Singapore as a foreigner, but also, as you mentioned, to find the right foreign talent. But to echo what's been said, there are a lot of great local talented people here as well. Like at Sleek, we've got probably like, I would say 70% of our Singapore company is local employees. And for my team, majority of them are local. And I think it's great because yes, they are quite easy to hire very quickly because they don't have a long notice period because again, having a foreigner join your company, it's quite risky. So you put a really long notice period. Also, there's not the salary constraints because as we all know, to get a visa in Singapore, you need to pay a minimum salary. And obviously that's not very achievable for a new business. And then the other thing is that local Singapore employees also, you can get subsidies from the government to help to subsidize their employment. And one of the things that came out of the event yesterday with the Ministry of Manpower is that the government is actually putting in place a lot of these credit schemes to pay salaries for Singaporeans that maybe you wouldn't consider naturally like the young Gen Z. Like more wise, not older, more seasoned professionals, and also disabled Singaporeans that they just want to work. Maybe it's an invisible disability, but they're just as capable, particularly when we're all working from home mostly, to deliver on a really great value. Because again, I think that's where you can really tap into those opportunities in addition to the uni students. We used to go to a lot of the career fairs at all NUS and to like all of the universities, and we'd set up a little Sleek stand, and then all the interns would come. They would work for, I think we'd pay $1,000 a month, give them a laptop, give them holidays. And then at the end of 3 months, if they were really great, we would give them a full-time job. And so that's another great way as a new company to give someone who's looking for experience a job, and also to find like a young rising star that you can start as like maybe a junior salary. And then as they prove themselves, you increase, you give them promotions. And then the other tool that startups use is ESOP. Because at the beginning, you might not have any money, but you can promise them a percentage of your company. But like you mentioned, the team that you hire at the beginning might not be the team that's there forever. So you don't want to give away too much of your company at the beginning because you might give it to the wrong people. So I think there's some practical techniques if you're looking for local staff.
Ellen, what's the office in Singapore like when there's people in the office?
When there is people, for the moment we are 12. So we are growing, but not so fast in terms of people. We are growing much more faster in terms of revenue and customer because we are mainly digital. But yes, we are 12 now. Half of the teams are sales and digital sales, and the rest of the teams are support functions.
And so there's another option that we're not talking about, but which is growing more and more lately, which is the remote option, right? There's more and more talks about like since we've been working from home for 2 years, there's a lot of talks about why would you care about having someone here being paid a fortune where you could have someone somewhere else, be it in Bali or somewhere else, and being paid less. What's the approach of OVH on that? And you already have like people all over the world, right?
Yes, we have people all over the world. We also we work remotely for the last 2 years, but even before we are using some digital tools, etc. So we are ready for that. But actually, as we are working as a startup, we don't have so many processes. We don't have a clear list of tasks you can give to a newcomer. So it's not so easy when you are alone. So that's why for the newcomers, we prefer to have them on site at least 2 days a week, to be able to create the link and to work together, because working together is one of our value. And sometimes it's not so easy at the beginning. But after that, yes, we can work remotely for sure.
Do you have any requests in that sense, Stephen, of people saying, like, all right, I need someone in Singapore, but I can hire them anywhere in the world? Is that something is that a trend that you're seeing? Is there anything in that sense?
Not so much, because when the clients come to us to engage our services, they tend to be very specific on what they want. Like, for example, they're looking for a country head for Vietnam or whatever. So it's very specific. Yeah.
And Daniel, I think part of the team is actually not in Singapore, right? So how does how do you make the split? Like, how do you choose to get someone here or remote? Or?
Yeah, I think it's been interesting because we thought we would go back to the office very quickly. So we had like the split AB teams, and then we went on Zoom, on Google Hangouts. I think one thing that we did that's been great is to do like a morning meeting every day with the team. So I lead the sales team and the customer success team, and so I do one after the other, and we go through like what is the progress on our KPIs and sales on customer satisfaction. What are the problems you guys are facing, and then what's the plans? Just those 3 Ps every day. But what is more important is the contact. Even though you're looking at each other on the screen, I think it's really important because and then anyone has any obstacles, you can solve them every day in the morning. And then throughout the day, we're all connected on Slack. So it doesn't really matter where you're based. And I actually feel like we're more productive because I think just even coming to the event tonight, that was like a 20-minute taxi ride where you could have done like 2 calls within that time. But I think what you lose is the human element. So I think in addition, now that we can, is to go out and have drinks with your team, reconnect on the human level, particularly all the new people that I've never actually met in person. So I think that's the Singapore team, but we also have teams in the Philippines, in Hong Kong, in the UK, and Australia. And again, I think we have those regular team meetings as a management team, but also checking in on everyone to make sure everyone's doing okay. And I think you see the warning signs sometimes on the way people communicate, particularly across cultures. I think French people and Australian people and the Filipinos or Singaporeans, there's very different communication styles. And so I think you really need to jump on issues. I think as soon as they come up, otherwise I think people misinterpret things and then it becomes, people get bitter against each other. So I think that's one of the big challenges of remote working is that kind of the non-verbal cues when you're not actually seeing someone in person.
And so with the team that you have spread out, do you try and gather them in specific places, or if you find a talent tomorrow in the middle of Indonesia where you have no office, would that become an issue, or that doesn't really matter?
Yeah, I think it's difficult because again, you have to manage them for HR. So I think that's the hard thing. So I had a really good sales guy that had to go back to France, and so I was like, all right, see you later. And then I was like, why would I let him go? He's in France, but it doesn't matter. So I rehired him again, but he had to then set up his own French company and send me an invoice every month for his time. But what it actually meant was we can now cover the globe at all times for sales, because before we were finishing at 6 o'clock in Singapore. So I think that was also another opportunity to hire someone in another country. He's doing the exact same thing he was doing in Singapore, and he just invoices me his old salary. It's just, I don't have to deal with his local taxes. He has to deal with that. So I think, but again, he's one person in one country, but as you start to have multiple countries, you really need to have some form of HR to look after their needs, because they're still your employees, even though they're contractors. You still need to like listen to their needs and wants and bonuses and whatever questions they have. So I think that's important.
Cool. Do we have any question from the floor? The audience. Can you look at the streamline maybe? Yeah, go ahead.
It's more of a technical question, but do you know if you need a visa for hiring interns? I mean, foreign interns by any chance? Do you have any experience of that?
You can get a work and holiday visa, which allows them to come and work here. So that would be the main one for a foreigner. But again, there's different criteria in terms of age. I think it's below 30 to get that visa. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because apart from that, it would be the S pass, which has a quota. So you need to hire a certain amount of Singaporeans depending on the industry to get one person. And then the other one's the EP. But for that junior level, you probably wouldn't be considering an EP.
About the culture fit. I think that was really interesting, but I'm just wondering, like, how do you build this, cultural fit? Because when you just start, you have two co-founders, so it's a bit difficult because I think that OVH, you are already in France, so you already have a pretty good idea of the culture that you want to implement and everything. But when you are only two, like, how do you really build it? How do you define it?
Yeah, I'll start off, but I guess everybody can have an opinion on it. To me, the culture is built by the people in the company, right? So the founder is usually the one that has the vision of where the company should go and what sort of company he or she wants to build. So that is the start of what the culture of the company will be. But ultimately, it's based on who joins, who stays, who contributes, and that would develop the cultural mindset of the company.
Yes, and I think it's based on values also. So I agree, it's based on the values of the founders. And then if you know what are your values, you try to recruit people that are feeling the same way.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And I think it comes from the management and the management level down, because you need to reinforce culture if you want a good culture. And I think as soon as you see something that goes against your values or your culture, you need to call it out, because otherwise it breeds a different culture. And so Sleek, what we did, which is really corny, but I think it really works, is we used our name as an acronym for our culture. So S is simple, L is loyal, E is entrepreneurial, E is excellent, and K is kind. So if people are in the team, but they're sending really long emails to entrepreneurs that have no time, that's not simple. If a sales guy doesn't follow up on his lead that we paid to acquire through marketing costs, that's not loyal. If you're sending an email, it's really badly worded, there's spelling mistakes, you did a really bad job, you have to redo it again. It's a waste of everyone's time. That's not excellent. And then the last thing, which I think is the most important, is kind. Because if people are bullying each other, if people are being like, just like we spend so much time with each other at work, there's no time for office politics. So I think if we see those behaviors that go against our Sleek culture, and when we hire people, when there's red flags, that's the decision we make in terms of our culture.
I think as a founder, you have an opportunity as well, right? You can actually build the culture you'd like to see in your company. At the end of the day, you're the founder. You kind of decide that, and you could even, like, if you take it to the extreme, you could decide to have a culture of jerks if that's your thing. No one can go against it. You know what I mean? Like, it's really your choice to say, like, all right, this is going to be our values, and this is, I believe in that because that's the way it works for us. And then of course you cannot expect everyone to be exactly the same. You need to get people that will enrich this culture, but at least that go in the wrong way. And so if someone is not loyal or not honest with the client, then you call it out, just get rid of the brilliant jokes where it doesn't work, right? Any other question? Online, you can ask questions as well. We're looking at the chat, so we can't hear you because otherwise it's going to be a cacophony. But if you have any question, you can put them in a chat, and Cindy will tell us. Any other question? Yeah.
Hi. So I've got a question related to ESOP. So Daniel, you mentioned that entrepreneurs, one thing they could consider is perhaps giving out ESOPs to employees who join them at the early stage. From your observation, when do business owners usually consider ESOP at the startup entrepreneur stage?
Yeah, of course. So it's an employee share options scheme. So when you've got no money to pay people, what you do is you entice them, the good ones, with your company, giving away percentage of your company so they own your business essentially. And what that does is it keeps people in the business because essentially they're working for their own business. But the issue is that the first people you give it to, they might not stay. And so I think what's really important is you get good legal advice. And we're not a law firm, but what it's good to do is to look at your growth plans, the types of people that you need to really attract. So tech is like super difficult. So they're the kind of people that they're very expensive. And so if you have no money, but you want to attract them to your really great business, which you've sold them the vision and, hey, we're going to be a unicorn one day, you give them a percentage of your business, but you do it in a very smart way. Because ESOPs, essentially, you can write whatever conditions you like. And so often there's something called a cliff where the employee has to stay in the business for maybe 1 or 2 years before they can actually get the percentage of your company. So they can work to earn it, but they don't get it if they leave before that period. And then you have shares that you give them maybe every month. And then at the end of that, they can then vest and they can exercise them and then they own the business. So it's an instrument, a legal instrument that you can use as an additional way to entice really good people, but it can be tailored for every single company in their own way, in their own unique case. So I don't think there's any one point of time. You could do it from day one. But again, it really depends, like when you find the really great person that's going to help you to build the company, that's when you need to kind of hook them in. And this is one way to lock them in.
And you probably would give like bigger share to your fantastic CTO than to your intern. Right?
Exactly. And like sometimes it's hard to, like, you don't want to give away part of your business to everyone because otherwise, like we talk to clients that, talked to one client, had an amazing idea, huge, great business, and she only owned like 24% of it because she's given so much away to her employees, to investors, but she's the one doing all the hard work. So I think it's really good to get good legal advice so you don't kind of make the wrong decisions until it's too late.
And the last part you can use as well is dilution, right? So one of the part that you can use is say like, right, whenever we raise money, you're going to dilute the same way as everyone, so that you can actually continue to increase the shares. Any other question? Question online? On there? All right.
One thing on ESOP, I think the thing with ESOP is in a startup, it's you as an employee, if I join a startup, I get ESOP. I don't expect that to be $1 million one day. You know, it'll be nice if it's $1 million, but I think you're just in it because you're on board the mission. Whether that becomes $1 million one day or not, who knows? But as we know, a lot of startups don't see the light of day, right? So you know, it could be worth nothing. So yeah, I don't think that would be such a key component, really. I think you want to focus more on the culture that you want to set up for the company. You want to the strategy for the business plan, and growing the company rather than focusing on the ESOP. Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't want people to join just for the money as well, because then that connects back to the value where they don't care about your company. Then that's not going to make great employees. Cool. Thank you so much, guys. This is not over. What we decided was usually in those big events, like some people are too shy to ask questions, or some of them come up in a conversation. We set up 3 spaces. Feel free to wander around. What I advise you is to get a seat, and so that we can bring you a few snacks and a glass of wine. A glass of wine is only so that you can take off your mask and you can continue to chat. Right? You can also have a glass of water if you ask for it gently. That's fine as well. But we'll go first with wine. And guys, if you want to split as well, so we have 3 business leaders. Use them. We have some that have extra specialties. We can talk about cloud and infrastructures with Elen, and finance as well, because Elen has got a finance background. Steven is obviously hardcore in the recruitment and talent advisory. We have Michael as well working in the same industry, and Daniel has touched on a bunch of stuff, but customer experience and sales probably your core as well. So use them gently, being polite, and I'll be wandering around as well. Very happy to connect with you guys. Thank you so much. Big round of applause. Thank you for you guys online. We'll finish up that, and enjoy the rest of the evening. And yeah, see you around. Thanks.